Hi! Today I'm going to teach you how to use watercolors. These are the rules, tips, and tricks I say every time we get the watercolors out. First, they are called watercolor paints because you use lots and lots of water and just a little bit of paint. When you get the paints, they feel dry because they need water. Most of the time when you use watercolor paint, you are going to use a soft watercolor brush. These soft brushes hold a lot of water. Get your brush really wet and gently touch the color you want. Touch the water again and put it on the paint color again. Make a little puddle or pool of water on top of the color, only on top of the color you are going to use at that time. This little puddle on top will give you the perfect mix of paint and water. Look how pretty that is. You never want to jam your brush down into the paint or try to scoop up chunks of color. That's just not how you use watercolor. If your brush is not gently soaking up color, you need more water. As you paint, your brush glides across the paper. It will be wet and transparent. That means the color is see-through. If your paint is looking thick or dries shiny, you did not use enough water. Okay, if I had a nickel for every time a kid told me they didn't have paint left in their watercolor palette when the bottom was showing, these YouTube videos would have a professional voiceover.
But anyway, did you hear the part at the beginning when I said you use lots and lots of water, but just a little bit of paint?
Even if your palette is nearly scrubbed clean, if there is a smidgen of paint in there, it will mix with the water just fine and probably be enough to finish your entire piece. Always start painting with your light colors. Yellow is sometimes dirty, but as you make your pool or puddle on top, you can kind of clean it off. Keeping a paper towel under your palette is a good way to dry and clean your brush off periodically. This helps soak up colors you might not want there. Don't use towels or tissues to soak up paint on your picture. This can leave weird textures on your paper or make holes, smear things. Don't do it. If you are painting small details or intricate designs, it's sometimes best to use a stiffer brush. A stiffer brush will not hold as much water and gives the painter more control of where the paint is going. Remember, the watercolor paint is not going to go anywhere you don't put it unless the paper is wet. Oops, did you get a drip or some bleed back? No problem. If the paper is wet, expect that the paints will mix and bleed. If you accidentally touch sides with an entire wet area, the two colors will probably bleed. There is an easy fix. First, dry the brush gently on your paper towel. Never use your fingertips to wring out bristles. Oh my goodness, who taught you that? You are damaging the brush. Use the dryish bristles to soak up the offending bleed back or color. Continue to dry your brush and soak up the color until it is mostly cleaned up. Once the area is dry again, you can repaint the area. It might be the next class period. Don't try it again too soon. If you work the area too much, you will notice your paper will start to get nappy and possibly tear very easily. This is another reason we do not go at it with paper towels, Kleenex, or table sponges. Karen, put that away. Oh yeah, and oops, did you get a drip or some bleed back? Here's a thought. Don't fix it. That's why watercolors can look so beautiful. It happens. There are projects we use watercolors for, and there are projects we use tempera and acrylics for a reason. Sometimes those happy accidents just look better. Purposefully blending your colors in your work can be absolutely beautiful with watercolors. When painting a large area, it can look cool to mix analogous colors or stripe or bleed warm and cool colors, or even create a shade to make a shadow. However, there can be right ways of doing this and wrong ways, especially if you do not know your color theory or your watercolor techniques. Yikes! Keep the colors light and wet and visibly separate. If you want a beautiful wash look, don't start experimenting like a scientist on your art project and scrubbing every color together. I shouldn't have to say this, but also don't lift up your paper to mix your colors or blob dots of colors or every art teacher's worst nightmare, splatter. That is not a painting technique. That is a mess. Go do that at your kitchen table and tell me how mom reacted. If your colors are light and wet and visibly separate, but you get a color that doesn't quite go, just try to soak it back up quickly. Absolutely terrible, horrible, no good, very bad dried watercolor disasters can also be fixed. To a degree, a damp magic eraser can sometimes get those oopsies that can't quite fit into the beautiful category. Finally, save dark colors like brown and black to use absolutely last. These colors will make your water dirty and make it hard to get light colors again. As you are painting, your water does change into all different colors and it does get dirty. But if you paint light colors to dark, you will not need a water change at all. Also, try not to comment on the color changing water. The water is an introvert and doesn't like to be talked about. Even saying nice things causes it major anxiety. When you do use dark colors like brown and black, they will look very light. If you want to color darker, you can always put another layer on later. But once you get dark with watercolors, it is impossible to get them light again. Oh, for instance, you might be thinking, I don't have any pink. I need pink for my picture. Again, if I had a nickel for every time a kid asked me for the color pink, this YouTube video would be using a professional hand model. Anyway, your red will look pink unless you've made a few layers. And yes, your black will look gray. And that is how it should be. When you are done, if your paints are in a tray, leave them open to dry. Rinse your brush in your water cup and keep it separate. Older students will put supplies by the sink. Wipe up your area and throw your paper towels away. Voila! These are the basics of watercolor. Good luck!